Welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, 18-hour special initiative that celebrates the undying entrepreneurial spirit of micro, small and medium enterprises. This is the only daily MSME platform in the country, a show where you can voice your concerns and get answers to all your queries directly from our team of experts. We understand the issues that you, the MSME entrepreneur, face, and the show aims to bring you the most relevant and the most updated information on everything related to your businesses. Tonight, we're taking in all of your queries which have come in to us. First up to answer your queries, starting with my immediate left, is Sushanta Mitra, is the founder and CEO of the Lead Angels. We also have Manish Bansal, he's the CEO of SME Value Advisors. Let's kick off tonight's episode then with a call which is coming to us from the line of Pooja Singh. Pooja, go ahead.
I'm Pooja Singh. I'm from catering industry. Our problem deals with many more of the certainty for starting and running a good catering service. There's a lot of good staff is needed. Among them, a good chef and kitchen helpers are the prime. So there is always a challenge that the staff will leave in search of a better salary. How to hold them for a long time?
Okay, so this is essentially a query related to employee retention, and we get that quite frequently, particularly in businesses which are in the service industry. Talking specifically to the catering business, the food industry, as well as to people who are juggling and sort of struggling to really retain talent, what advice would you have?
So I think there have been a couple of studies in this area and saying what motivates people to stay back in companies, and it's not only about money. So yes, a large part of it is money, but there are other ways in which you can retain employees. One is to give them more responsibility, recognize their work, help them to grow their own skill sets, because that is when, if they are learning, especially the young people, prefer a learning environment as opposed to, doing the same thing over and over again. So move them around departments, so they want to stay back longer. Profit sharing, any sort of stock options, ownership, that definitely gives them a sense of ownership of the company, and that makes them stay behind. The last is that it should, especially for younger team members, you have to create a sort of fun environment for people to work, because then they feel comfortable in that and they wouldn't like to go and join somebody else. So those are things I would suggest.
Very right, Sunanda. I would agree to what Sushanta said. Most of the times I have seen never people leaving us for money. It could be for other reasons. They could be personal, they could be otherwise, maybe more exciting opportunities. So all the time the question we ask is, how do we become a deserving candidate for retaining people? Because at the end of the day, people have a choice to grow in their personal lives, and they should. So either we have to create that environment, as my friend suggested, or we have to let the people go. But money is not the only motive, and I would essentially say again and again, we have to emphasize upon the non-monetary part of be it environment or an opportunity to learn and grow at the personal level. This is the kind of stuff we have to address.
I know you do talk about ESOPs quite a bit. Right. Is that an option that you would think is viable for MSMEs?
Yeah, I think it's viable, even though they may not necessarily go public and they may not get acquired, but they could create a trust where the employee stock options are held, and they could be bought back by the trust itself over 2 or 3 year period of time. So it's just a beneficial ownership. It does not mean that the shares are actually given to the employees, but it gives them a sense of ownership, because as the company progresses, their benefits increase from the stock option plan.
All right, fair enough. Trust that answers your query, Pooja. Let's take in our next question. This is an email which is coming to us from Jayant Patil. Do stay tuned. At the end of this episode, we'll tell you how you can email us as well with your queries. Jayant has written in to us to say that he's in the kidswear retail market and wants to know from our experts what suggestions they would have about helping him expand. Thanks for that, Jayant. Now, social media, of course, is what comes top of mind, but let me ask you experts to really respond to this.
So my thought would be that the kids wear business is very, very competitive with very strong brands available. So unless you can define a niche for yourself and say, look, this is the segment I want to operate in, it's a very, very difficult business to be in. Right. So I would essentially request Jan to look into defining his niche, his segment which he wants to operate in. Don't try to focus upon the pan India level. Focus upon his specific maybe geography. Make a presence and then try to expand. Second part obviously comes in the online platforms. Setting up a shop on any of the online platforms is a lot more easier, cheaper, and the faster route to reach out to the pan India level. So I think these two things as a combination of defining niche and setting up on the online platform, I think would be the way to go for Jan. So Shantam.
Yeah, absolutely. So what Manish said, but one of the things that he could also try and do is maybe look at getting some TV characters or you know, cartoon characters and create merchandise and clothes around that and sell them. So that could.
But that will come at a substantial cost.
Yeah, there are royalties to be paid, but that, you know, kids do watch a lot of television and play a lot of games, and a lot of them want to use, you know, products associated with those characters. He might want to explore that option as well, in addition to what Manish said.
All right, Jayant, wish you all the best then when it comes to the expansion of your business. Our next query is coming to us on social media, and Kajal Gangwani has written in to us on Facebook saying she's in the restaurant business, wants to know from our experts how she can talk about franchising and explore franchising, and if there's any checklist that she needs to keep in mind when she explores such a franchising business. Franchising, of course, is a great benefit for MSMEs. We've had several franchisors who come on our show saying, you know, it doesn't require that upfront capital payment. But what specific advice would you have for Kajal?
Right. So I think the first is to build a certain amount of brand in the couple of units that she already has, so that it generates interest in potential franchisees, and make sure that, you know, the product and the experience of the customer that who he or she gets when they visit the unit is replicable across 2 or 3 centers, so that she will be able to then get you know, other franchisees to follow that trend. And it must be documented. Every process in their restaurants must be documented, so that that can be shared with the franchisee, because you don't want different experiences of customers in different units of the thing. The other is that she must also look at the capabilities of the franchisee, because lots of times people want to start out on a new business, put in money, but they're not really good at running that business. So the domain expertise of the franchisees and their interest, long-term interest in the business, because restaurant business is something where probably for the first few months, and in some cases quite a few months, you know, you don't make money. So she needs to look at those people who are in this business for the long term and not looking for short term sort of opportunities. That would be my opinion.
Yes, Sunanda, so where I see the question coming from is that she's saying, if I can own a business and I can give the franchise to people, question she needs to ask is, why will people take her franchise? I think, as Sushanto said, a great brand, for example, which has easy recall, then it will make sense for the people, right, sitting in the other region, because if I'm traveling there and I have a recall with the brand, it will be easy for me to walk into that particular restaurant. So until unless she has something which is a kind of, you know, giving a recall and or inviting customers to come and visit, it will not work. So that's the very first point to it. So she has to first build, nurture, create a brand. That's the first thing. And then after, she can think of it. And after that, it's all about productization, you know, documenting everything at the end of, you know, and then creating a product experience, right, which can be replicated across the places is what we need to look at. So it's a lot of hard efforts required before even you think of going on the franchising route. Second part I would think is, instead of creating the fresh franchise, we have been working with some of those businesses which are creating franchises. We always say, go to the people who are already into this business but do not have a brand or anything. because what will happen then, I go to you and say, look, you please use my name, and for that you give me X percentage royalty. What it does, it adds a lot of value to you because you are running an unbranded business. It's a much more faster, easier, cheaper route for me to actually create a lot of franchisees in a very short period of time. So that's what I would essentially think, Kajal, to do. First homework and then going out to market.
Great. I guess that would be definitely a smart move to put your brand onto an existing chain. All right, Kajal, that's in response to your query. Let's take in our next question. This is an email which is coming to us from Hemant Gavde. He says he's a hardware seller of tech products and wants to know how he can compete with players like Vijay Sales, Chroma, etc., and wants to know what our experts suggest. And essentially, for any business competing with a larger peer, what should be the strategy that you would suggest?
So I think one is, of course, that there are a couple of strategies. One is a niche strategy that he focuses on a particular product line, and specializes in them, provides services around them, and is able to handhold the customers over a period of time and build his franchise around that, rather than being a Chroma or a Vijay Sales, which is a multi-category, a multi-brand sort of chain. The other, I would say, is to also explore the maybe not the such well-known brands which Vijay Sales and Chroma has, but get niche brands to also provide to sell those brands. That would be my suggestion.
Sure.
Sunanda, my thought would be on this case that everything which is relevant today is becoming irrelevant slowly. So maybe the guy was very relevant in the age when there was probably no e-commerce world. Maybe there were no large format, so to call, stores. But today, with the the availability or accessibility to the information on a click, and there is no differentiation at the product, right? People will always look for the best deals. Right. So what's happening is that if he's selling the same set of products as Chroma or any of the Vijay Sales of the world selling, and then so many e-commerce platforms selling, the only basis of competition for him is pricing. And as Charlie Munger all the time said, the partner at the Berkshire Hathaway is in any business where the only basis of competition is pricing is a self-destructive business. So I think that the guy is turning, I will use very strong word, irrelevant. And unless there is a soul searching happens there, why I am relevant, why should a customer come to me in today's world, until and unless there is a thinking on this subject and answers are clear, I would essentially ask him to walk out and explore something new rather than wasting time here, because the environment will become continuously more and more tough for him.
Hemant, that's in response to your query, and wish you all the best when it comes to the soul searching as well as the expansion that you're looking at. Let's take a very quick break, in fact, at this point, but we'll continue answering all of your queries on the other side. Just stay tuned. Welcome back. With us here on the Leaders of Tomorrow, and we're continuing to take in all of your queries. The next one, in fact, is a call which is coming to us from the line of Rahul Sharma. Rahul, what's your question?
My name is Rahul Sharma, and my question is, due to online shopping of mobile, we are facing difficulties getting visitors to buy from us, and we are not selling as much as we would like to. Online shopping is a pain point of us and our potential customers. So how to come up with this problem?
So somewhat similar to what we were discussing just before we took the break, but this is a person who's trying to reach more customers. So as a retailer, what would your recommendation be?
So apart from the fact that he should also be present on all the online platforms, I think in India we still have a there is a segment of the population which likes touch and feel and personalized service, and if he can provide that sort of service around the area where he operates, then he will be able to retain some of his customers, is what I would suggest.
Sure. All right, so Rahul, that's in response to your query. Thanks for sending that in to us. The next one is a query that's coming to us on social media. Abhinav Kumbare has written to us on Facebook saying the manufacturing sector is constantly changing and each year the industry is facing new challenges like regulation, traceability, product development and innovation, as well as a manufacturing skills gap. He wants to know what our experts suggest in terms of overcoming some of these challenges. So specifically as far as the manufacturing sector is concerned, and the government of course is talking about Skills India, it's talking about Manufacturing India and encouraging these manufacturing companies to tap into skill sets, but there are a lot of other challenges and issues as well. What would you recommend?
So Sunanda, I would essentially think the only constant in this world is change. We are a capitalist economy. So what does it mean is the resources will flow to the places where they produce best. The challenges of changing customer needs, their preferences, their tastes, changing regulations, right, for something better. Maybe in that change process, new opportunities will get created, and obviously there will be destruction at some places. So the only thing I can suggest here is that there are three kinds of people: people who change before change happens, they are the change drivers; people who change with the change; and people who don't change and keep thinking that something is happening but we are not able to cope up. So you have got to either be in the first category where you become the leader, or in the second category at least you survive. Third category guys anyway will die down. So you have to essentially think, where are the changes happening and how I can basically stay relevant in that changed environment. So this is the only thing. I don't have any specific answer to this question, because these changes of changing product preference, regulatory, changing customers' needs will continuously keep happening. Sushant has something to add.
I think the way I look at it, I also run a business, and one thing is how to look at every problem as an opportunity. So for example, there's any change that is a problem to your business is as much of an opportunity as it is a challenge. So a challenge is also an opportunity to build your business around that solution, and so on and so forth. So if your customers are going online or moving from requirements are changing, that's as much of an opportunity as much as it is a challenge. So don't look at the change as a problem, but look at it as an opportunity for building something different and solving the customer problem.
Okay, Abhinav, that's in response to your question. Let's take in the next one, and this is also a call which is coming to us from Arindam Mitra. Go ahead, Arindam.
The question is how we go on to place Buddhi Yoga board games in different bookstores and different places, say like a restaurant or not a typical restaurant, say a coffee joint, etc., starting with Kolkata, so that people can have a hands-on experience in playing the game and eventually buy the board game. That is the question.
So we don't talk very often about the marketing challenges which exist for entrepreneurs and MSMEs. We talk constantly about social media, but anything else you would recommend for a business which is in such a traditional space, but is also competing with your larger MNCs when it comes to these mind games, etc., about how to go ahead marketing and promoting themselves?
Sure. So I think one of the things that he can do is go to schools and do programs in schools, because that's the first level, and create awareness about his product, and then make it available at the toy stores and the online stores, and do PR around it. Maybe work in partnership with schools and maybe have sort of prize competitions, because students love competition. So maybe have competitions around his products to get that first level of awareness before he starts spending marketing dollars on advertising and so on and so forth.
Sure. All right, Arindam, that's in response to your query about marketing your product and marketing essentially these mind games. Our next query is also a call which is coming to us from Onkar Kale. Go ahead, Onkar.
Hi, this is Onkar Kale here too. I am the technical director for Oasis Solutions Private Limited, and my question is container shipping is a volatile industry with business to tight margin when supply and demand is not a balance. it can be challenging to take profit. So how to fulfill demand and supply to make more profit?
Okay, so the environment, of course, is something that cannot be controlled by any business. But how do you put in place, like you hedge for your currency and the volatility there? Is there any hedging that you can put in place for your business?
So I think, first is to be ready for volatility. I think a lot of, till very maybe 10, 15 years ago, things are sort of more stable, and there is a lot of disruption happening in every business, with the internet and mobile apps and so many other changes. The world is becoming, one market and so on and so forth. So I think a lot of businesses who have been used to a very stable environment need to first get ready for this volatility itself. Then of course for each business there will be specific things, but I'm assuming that since this is a very trade related business, container shipping, I think he should have a very strong view of what is happening in the market and therefore be able to predict what changes will happen in his particular space and then accordingly act. Sure. I would say that.
So Sunanda, I come from the treasury background, so the hedging has been what we have been doing a lot. So there are freight forwards, or the freight options are available. And shipping is a very, very difficult business to be in, and also it's a global business in nature. It's not something which is like India or which is like only Singapore. So I would essentially think the guy, if it's of reasonable size, because the size is very critical, then he should look at maybe some of those products which even the Reserve Bank of India in India allows you to hedge against, which is typically the freight prices, and he may look at some of those options with his bankers.
Okay, let's take in then one last query before we wrap the show, and this is a call which is coming to us from Chanchal Deswal. Chanchal, go ahead.
We are IT service enterprise. I would like to know, financial institutions like SIDBI and SBI are not giving collateral free funds to service industry, even after 6 to 7 years of completion of their business. Why?
Also is another challenge for the MSMEs, but you have SIDBI, which to some extent at least is trying to help MSMEs do away with the collateral business. But if you want anything over and above a certain limit, what advice do you have for our viewers in terms of how they can possibly go about raising these loans?
I am not an expert on the debt side, but I think that there are loans available to people beyond a crore. They will of course have to provide some collateral for that. It could be hypothecation of the equipment that they are buying, or the inventories that they can, or the receivables, and he could go ahead and do that. I would suggest maybe he takes in a consultant who will help him through this process of getting a bank loan.
Sure.
So Sunanda, if I were to answer this question, I would essentially say, look, your suppliers can fund you, because they can give you the credit. Your customers can fund you by giving you the advance. If you are buying some specific machine, even the guys who are selling you the machines can give you the extended credit over that. So essentially a guy who is selling you the product can fund you. Then there are NBFCs, which can look at you, or then the friends and the relatives. So ultimately you have many options, but I think you have to think very creatively and go beyond bank, because banks will have their own limitations. They have their own structures and own products to basically look at, and their internal systems. So you have to probably look for more unconventional means of getting yourself funded.
So Chanchal, do keep in mind that bank is just one option for you to raise funds. Completely out of time then on this episode. Thank you gentlemen very much for being with us here tonight. Do remember, if you have any queries related to any aspect of your business, you can always write in to us at leadersoftomorrow@timesgroup.com. You can tweet at me personally at Sunanda_J. You can reach us on social media using the hashtag LOT, or call us on that number you see flashing on your screen. We promise to have all your queries answered. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.